Good day. Today on the Skid Factory, Al and Woody are going to fit the last of the Cummins bits to the Patrol and getting ready to fire it up. And if you're not subscribed to the Skid Factory, you have to like and subscribe them now because they're almost at 200,000 subscribers. Like it now. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Skid Factory. We're working hard on filling up this empty engine bay with lots of pipes and hoses and stuff, and I don't think it's going to be too hard. We've just been working on the cooling pipes, which there's plenty of. It's a pretty basic engine and basic cooling system, but you still end up with a lot of hoses and stuff going everywhere, so we've been trying our best to keep them under control so it's not a big mess of hoses and clamps and stuff everywhere. We also had Denny come up and measure up for the intercooler tanks. He's going to make some castings for it, and actually I think he's pretty fair way into it now. He's sent me some pictures of some bits of wood that he handcrafted into the shape of a tank, so hopefully we'll have them soon in an actual alloy casting so we can weld them on. In the meantime, Woody and we both couldn't handle the fact that because the compressor's on the wrong side, that every pipe coming in and out of the condenser is in the wrong place. So Woody plucked it out and decided to see if it could be mounted backwards. And after a bit of messing around and some drilling new holes and fiddling with stuff, he nailed it. So it's actually in backwards, so the compressor through the condenser and back into the car is actually in the right order now. We've also swapped the receiver dryer, which used to be on that side, to this side. It's all pretty much all original piping and hardware and stuff like that, just slightly modified and stretched and made to fit. So that's something to keep in mind if you're doing a conversion like this, is that it is doable. We got some fans, one of them didn't fit, even though we test fitted it 17 times. And
yeah, what's the go there? What?
I have absolutely no idea. It might have been because you shuffled it across 10 mil.
Boy.
Anyway, these are super high-powered SPAL 16-inch ones, are the biggest ones you can get. They cost a fortune, so I've had to drop down to a slightly less powerful version that has the motors nowhere near as big, just to clear the pulleys on that side. So we'll have to just put a little divider in between the two shrouds, so this one's not sucking that one inside out, just to separate them because they've got different ability to move air. But that's all good. We're getting one of those. What else are we up to?
Done heater lines and cooling lines.
Yeah.
Bottom hose, top hose.
So I want to do the exhaust, but before I do that, I want to make sure everything in the engine bay is where it needs to be, so I don't go, oh, look at all this space, and just whack a giant pipe through the middle of everything and make it difficult for us to plumb everything else. So we've got the battery tray and put the battery in. It's just an aftermarket second battery tray. Fits pretty well, actually. I bought a new one of these. This is that's actually like a header tank, an expansion tank with the overflow bottle sort of built in underneath it. That's just standard ZD30 stuff. The other one was just haggard, so I bought a new one. They're pretty cheap, readily available. So we've gone in through the front there. This is actually a 2JZ stainless steel pipe that I've trimmed down and welded some bits to.
You going to buy me a new one of that?
Absolutely not. It was mine, I reckon. I think it was, actually. So that then leads on to a couple of, these are just generic hoses that fit like really common cars in Australia, like Commodores and Falcons and stuff like that. That way you can replace them pretty easily. This bit here, that's coming out of the cylinder head into the heater. That is Hilux LN107 or something like that. Some, common as hose. Fits pretty good. Then when it comes out of the heater, it comes back to head back into the water pump there, and that's where it picks up this expansion tank. That's how the ZD setup works, and we're kind of doing that mainly because the engine is a little bit higher than the radiator, which is not ideal. So I'm going to use this. This is fitted as standard for that reason on a ZD30, so we're going to start with that, and if there's any issues I can go back and tap it into that over there. We might just put a bleeder in on that thermostat housing outlet and just bleed it that way and see how it works. But these things are actually pretty good, and it's worthwhile keeping them even if you're doing a TD conversion. They actually do help keep the air out of the system. It's especially important on TDs since they've got their own sort of inbuilt gas injection system for the cooling system.
Another good old smoke machine! Brother! Do you need a hand, brother?
So we've got all that all sorted out, and got a few more things to fit in here yet, but we can go into the exhaust now, I think. I'm going to go 3.5 inch for the exhaust. It is a lot of people probably don't know this, but there is actually a size between 3 and 4 inch. You don't have to go 3 inches too small. I have to have 4 inch, unless you've got a like 79 series maybe. There is a size in between, and the difference between 3 and 4 inch in actual area is enormous. It's like, it's not the next size up, it's bloody twice as big. So in the interest of just keeping the physical size of everything down, I'm just going to go 3.5 inch, which is heaps big enough for this application. So we'll get stuck into that. I've got a heap of bends and stuff there. I've got a little muffler. Straight piping is the thing. Actually, if we're in America, we'd probably just put it straight out of the scoop hole and call it done. But we can't do that here. I can't get engineering with it without a muffler, so don't carry on. It's basically a muffler that doesn't do anything, but it's got to be there just for looks. Otherwise, it'll be coming straight out the back with probably a bit of soot hanging out of it. I reckon Woody should learn how to weld.
I know how to weld. You should learn how to use a camera.
I know how to use a camera.
No, you don't.
You need more weld practice than I need camera practice.
I thought if you had a 79 series, you need to have dual 4 inches.
Did I do one once?
Jared's, wasn't it?
No, that was single. With old Cox mate.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up getting booked for it. Probably because of like crimes against people's ears. It's only twice the amount of 8 inches of thong slap. Worst.
Al's making himself a dump pipe flange to suit the HX40 exhaust housing out of some 12mm plate steel. 409 stainless steel tube is being used for the exhaust system and joined together using Raceworks stainless steel V Bands.
We've also got new Allied shirts. We'll have to put the shifter on first, off the side of the 4L80. the dump pipe and over engine pipes done, other than a couple of sensor mounts or bungs. The exhaust goes over the engine. It has to go there. You can't put it out the driver's side or right-hand side. It just physically cannot fit through there. There's diff and gearbox in the way. It just doesn't work. So it's no big deal. I've put V-bands on either side of that over engine pipe so it can come off easily, so you can get at the valve clearances and stuff like that. So it's no biggie. We'll wrap it up with some heat shielding and it'll be sweet. So we're heading down underneath the car now. We've got to the gearbox and the shifter's not on there yet, so before we start making a path, we've got a fair bit of room that we can fit it through, as in vertical room, like close to the floor or down close to the cross member. So we need to throw at least the bottom half of the shifter on there just to see where it sits, so we avoid it. These things obviously don't like heat too much. So we've pulled it out of the box. I bought this from the States after a long search for something to suit. It's a Locar brand, and it's actually it's for electronic autos, so it doesn't have, it's only got down to D, park, reverse, neutral, and then D, and then it's got a Tiptronic function, so it's got micro switches for up and down. So because we're using that HCM CompuShift to run the 4L80, we can utilise this function. I also wanted it to look more like a normal gear stick rather than like a B&M or Hurst shifter, because it kind of looks out of place in a car like that. So it looks like really nice quality actually. It's got a lot of functionality to mount it. It looks like pretty well made too, which is good. So
This is a non-sponsored.
no, it's
Post, by the way.
I paid for it, but it was actually quite good value too. Out of the States, it's maybe 600 Australian dollars, which is equivalent to a 1960s shifter from other brands, price-wise, but it's obviously much more functional and better value for money. So I've just got to put the lever on and sort of mount up that to give us the idea where it is, and then avoid it as much as possible with the exhaust. We'll still cover it with fire sleeve, because those things season up's really annoying.
Exhaust mounting techniques vary between each application, but copying what the manufacturer has done will always work best. In this case, Al is copying the design Subaru used with all of their gearbox mounts.
My concentration face trying to frame a shot up back to front. And action. It's not going anywhere, mate.
No, mate, it's like that ratchet strap I put over the top of that stuff when I took it to the dump. It's not going anywhere. Yo,
Yo.
yo, yo.
Knees weak, arms are heavy.
You know that story I was going to tell you?
No, what's the story?
It was the story about this guy in the 90s. His name was Josh. And he was a bit of a guru. And it was his time. You can read about it on YouTube.
Is that not meant to make any sense? Or?
Not to you, because you were born after it was his time.
Oh, is that song you've been singing? Give me a preview.
It's time for you to learn about
Give me-
stuff that happened prior to your birth.
Thing is, there's going to be all these old dudes like, oh,
Yeah.
Woody doesn't know shit.
All these old dudes are going to be like, hell yeah.
Give me a preview of what it was.
1990, it's time for the guru. R.I.P. Guru Josh. Spent a couple of days making the exhaust, sort of a little bit tedious. So once again, expect to pay if you're getting something like this made. So it's the material, you probably think it might look like mild steel, but it's not. It's actually 409 stainless, which is a automotive exhaust grade of stainless steel. I haven't used it much, but it's actually really nice to weld if you get good bends that you can cut up, which these ones are. These ones came from Amron Exhaust in Brisbane. Sometimes you buy bends and you cut them in half and they just collapse because they're under tension. It's all down to the mandrel bending process, so you kind of got to give it a try. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. That's the only way you'll figure out which ones to buy. These ones are really good. They're nearly as good as the really expensive, like 304 grade stainless for cutting. Welding, it's better. So 409 is kind of like the sweet spot between mild steel and stainless for corrosion. So obviously it's got the anti-corrosion qualities of stainless, but mild steel tends to weld better. It doesn't crystallize or anything like that. So it's kind of got that sort of the good bits of both. It's just not shiny. So we started with the dump pipe. So I just made this outlet just with a hole saw and a piece of 12mm plate. So then it goes up over the cover. We've got a EGT probe mount here, which I've just basically made out of a stainless steel flange nut from a Subaru. They're the same grade stainless as this. So you can just run a 8th NPT tap through the middle of the 10 by 1.25 thread. It goes through really easily. It's a simple way of doing it. Goes across the valve cover. This will all get wrapped just to keep the heat down, although diesels don't tend to have super hot exhausts like petrols anyway. I'll put a bung in it for O2 sensor for when it's getting tuned. You still use air-fuel ratio to tune diesels. It's just a different range. So that's just there to make it easier for the guy that's tuning, and he can just screw his bung in there so it doesn't have to be all the way at the end of the exhaust. V Bands, they're everywhere. I tried to use as few as possible, but patrols are a bit of a pain when it comes to getting pipes in and out, particularly when they get this big. So they're just 3.5 inch V Bands from Raceworks. They work good. They got the quick disconnect setup on them, which is sort of makes it a bit easier. You don't have to back the nut all the way off. Mounts. That mounts to the engine block via some sump bolts that we made some brackets. This is the back of the transmission. You'll see the sort of flappy sandwiched brackets. That just lets everything move around a bit because you will get expansion. And one way to deal with expansion is if you're hard mounting it, is just let everything walk around. So oversized holes, bolts with certain types of washer combos on them is what OEM usually uses, and just the right tension and sort of locking, not nylock, but locking nuts, so you don't have to do them up to 11E. Through into a muffler. It's basically straight through. Diesels don't tend to be very noisy as it is, but if you've got no muffler at all, it just won't pass roadworthy. So that's what it's there for. We could picking up the original rubber mount in the diff area there, over the top of the diff out the side, and another factory rubber here. I haven't put a tip on it yet because we're going to make a rear bar for it, so I don't know what it's going to look like. So if we welded a tip on it, it'd probably end up in the wrong place. One of the worst things about diesels is if you put the tip in the wrong place, they can pick up into the back of the bar and circulate soot and diesel smell into the car. So you've got to be a bit careful about where you position them. So we'll finish that off later. This part here is easy to get off with a V-band. So we're ready to load it back in. We do have to drop the cross member to get that middle section in, which is basically just came down to me not thinking hard enough. Probably should have put that V-band down here. Although my rationale at the time was if you need to get that off to get it to sort of service the top of the engine, so I wanted to make it sort of accessible, but it's no big deal. You just got to drop the cross member. So we'll load all that back up in, bolt it all up, bolt the turbo manifold on. It's not even bolted on properly yet. Should do that. And that's about all we got for today. We've just received a bunch of stuff to continue working for next week's episode, so we'll get stuck into that. Some more cooling stuff, piping, more welding, that sort of thing. So that's it. Got to do the obligatory buy some merch please shout out that Woody always makes me do. It's his civic duty. It really helps us, supports the show. So grab some merch. We got lots of new stuff, new designs. I think we're going to get some new hats shortly as well. So just get onto skidfactory.com or theskidfactory.com. And one of them's a pre-order, so get onto that. The 31st it finishes unless we decide to change it. So get your pre-order on your button-up shirt. You will be a win with the ladies. Woody tells me that it's a sure thing once you get one of those. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for putting up with us, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
You forgot to mention about the purge welding of the exhaust, Alan. Stainless.
We purged it with 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen mix. It's a special mix that you get.
What temperature is that one set at?
It's probably about 22 degrees, I reckon.
Oh yeah, nice. Thanks, Lee. Should purge weld the whole shed. Oh, how's the focus issues? Sorry.
How far you reckon I can get?
Keep going.
Woody after too many beers.
All right, obviously you love the series because you're still watching, and if you haven't subscribed, definitely hit subscribe, share it with your friends. The guys at the Skid Factory are great guys. We had a blast with them back when they were in Canada. And that being said, Al, we might need an intro from you in your best Canadian accent and not American. I know you spend a lot of time in the States. We want your best Canadian accent, and you guys better let him know whether he's on par or not. And it is really hard to concentrate to speak in somebody else's dialect. So go easy on me too. I did my best. Thanks for watching, guys. Here we go.